Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining sun breathing, the strongest breathing style. Of course, this breathing style is only known to the Kamado family, which is also true since Yoruichi came to live with the Kamados for quite a short period of time. And in that instance, he was able to not train with the Kamados, but just teach him his sun breathing, which they in turn used as ritual dances and keep them in the best shape that they can be. Even Tanjiro's father, if he wasn't so sick, would have been an insanely powerful sun breathing user and may have been enough to take down Muzan, as Muzan did not go to the house when he was alive. If he was alive, there'd probably be less death. I'm not gonna lie to you. Anyway, the sun breathing is a breathing style that is passed down from father to son in every generation. Kamado family, alongside the Hafanu earrings that was granted from Yoruichi, they use it within a ritual ceremony practiced every year when the breathing style user offers the fire guided dance from sunset to sunrise to ward off threats and diseases. Did not work for Tanjiro's father. The dance is composed of 12 segments repeated throughout the night until dawn. Tanjiro Kamado, Tanjiro's father, noted that the breathing technique utilizes in this dance allows the user to never exhaust themselves, no matter how long they move, making it such that they can seemingly dance forever. The last user, of course, the sun breathing, was Tanjiro, who learned the breathing style from his father Tanjiro and would utilize it to fight various demons. Of course, the sun breathing since it's such an endgame thing, was only revealed by Rengoku's father, is to be a legendary breathing style and the first one to have ever been created. Yoruichi, the creator, modifying it to suit individuals he taught who are unable to use it, where you get the original ones: stone, thunder, and flower. There's two more that I can't mention in this video because I'm still doing videos about them. Anyway, both sun breathing are breathing styles that mimic the sun and replicate it with the user's movement, techniques, and abilities. All techniques and forms are extremely varied and have no set pattern, making it the most versatile and effective against demons. Of course, Tanjiro noted that using this style increases his overall power and speed, which may be due to the fact that his body is more suited to sun breathing as opposed to water breathing, because water breathing is the direct opposite. Anyway, upon seeing Yoruichi perform the 12 forms of sun breathing through his ancestors' memories, Tanjiro realized that despite being replicated with a surprising degree of accuracy for hundreds of years in his own mastery of sun breathing, it had unnecessary movements such as wrist angles, footwork, and breathing rhythm, compared to the sun breathing directly performed by Yoruichi, or at least the version that was taught to him. Removing them enabled him to use the breathing style in its purest form, to the point where Muzan, Yoruichi's visual overlapping with Tanjiro's own when he was performing the techniques against him. Of course, following Muzan's defeat, it was passed down to his family, sun breathing, or at least the dance was. The descendants of Tanjiro and his future wives Kanata and Sumiko Kamado are both able to perform it, although neither are aware of its combative history. Granted, that little time skip in Demon Slayer is the most stupidest ending. But granted, Attack on Titan does it, so maybe it's not so stupid. Once a year, Hikotumi Kagura is performed in a Shinoto shrine owned by the Ubuyashiki family. The known users, of course, were just Yoruichi, Sumiyoshi Kamado, the first one that was able to take in Yoruichi, Tanjiro Kamado, Tanjiro's father, Tanjiro, and then Tanjiro's descendants. Anyway, there's known technique. The known techniques, it was created with 12 techniques all connected to one another by Yoruichi. Later, upon meeting Muzan, Yoruichi perfected his swordsmanship form, creating a new unnamed 13th form. All 12 forms would be demonstrated in the 13th form, and an additional 14th technique was created and only utilized once by Tanjiro. Although, because of this, it is not necessary in the 13th form, confining Yoruichi's creations. Of course, they have the dancing flash, clear blue sky, where the user spins and twists their body in a circular motion, raging sun, 2 consecutive horizontal arcing slashes around them, burning bones, singular slash utilizing a spiral motion, Setting sun transformations, the user backflips into the air before performing a singular horizontal slash. Solar heat haze, the user rushes forth, now attempting to deliver a strike seemingly enveloped in a heat haze. Beneficent radiance, the user spirals into the air whilst performing a swirling slash upward toward the target. Sunflower thrust, the user performs a singular thrust utilizing the tip of their blade to strike the target. Sun Halo Dragon Dance, the user performs a high stance before unleashing a number of consecutive slashes and a fluid motion in the form of a Japanese dragon. Of course, you have Fire Wheel, where they flip in the air. Fake Rainbow, the user performs high speed twists and rotations, creating after image that are primarily used for evading attacks. Of course, you have Flame Dance, a 2-strike combo, which starts with a downward vertical slash leading into a horizontal slash right after. Then you have the 13th form, where you perform all 12 forms of sun breathing in repetitive succession to increase the accuracy and agility. This form was created solely for the purpose of killing Muzan. And then you have the 14th form that is only used by Tanjiro, but that's not really explained either. Other than that, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining moon breathing. Moon breathing, of course, is the direct opposite to sun breathing, as it was made by Upper Moon 1 or Katsuki Tsutsui. I could not say his name, as he is, of course, it was in an attempt to learn sun breathing from his twin brother Yoruichi, but he created directly opposite, of course, to try to surpass him and or be the direct opposite to his brother. Of course, did not work, and he still goes the demon route. Anyway, moon breathing is a breathing style that mimics the moon, specifically the crescent shape of the moon, as it waxes and wanes, and the erratic behavior of passing moonlight, as we see with his techniques. We'll get to his techniques in the final movies of the Infinity War Castle arc. Moon breathing is solely used by Mikatsu since he's been alive for so long. Since the Yoruichi arc, there has been no one he has taught. There has been no kids. There has been no other demons to adapt his breathing style. I don't think he'll even teach it to any of the demons. Would be useful, as he's the only demon with a breathing style. Anyway, he is one of the first demon slayers to ever utilize total concentration breathing, and is a breathing style which he continued using, as well as perfecting it to its maximum potential. Also, after becoming a demon, Kokushibo, new name, uses moon breathing in conjunction with his blood demon art, which allows him to unleash barrages of erratic crescent moon-shaped blades, an ability that complements his breathing style, along with making it more deadly and effective in the process. Of course, Kyujiro Rengoku's father, Mishita Tokido, one of his descendants, and 2 high-ranking members of the Demon Slayer Corps were not aware of the existence of moon breathing, as it is possible knowledge of its existence were either lost in history, similar to the Demon Slayer arcs, or intentionally forbidden due to the associated user's actions defecting to Muzan Kisame and killing the head of the Demon Slayer Corps. Yeah. Also, he didn't teach anybody. While sun breathing is an incredible breathing style to at least learn and master, there was still some sense of the relativity, because Rengoku's father at least, knew of the existence of sun breathing. It's just incredibly difficult to master. That's why fire breathing, all these other breathing styles spin off of it in terms of everything. While moon breathing, since Kokushibo was the only incarnation of it, he didn't teach anyone while he was still alive. Also, he didn't feel it was perfected enough. That's why he became a demon, so he could perfect his art and hopefully surpass Yoruichi. But he never does, though. Anyway, due to Kokushibo's centuries-long existence, he has created the most number of forms out of all known breathing styles, having developed a minimum of 16 techniques by the time of the events within the Infinity Castle, of which 11 were demonstrated, along with his demon blood art. First form, Dark Moon Evening Palace, Kokushibo draws his katana and performs a singular horizontal slash following a crescent shape creating numerous chaotic crescent blades along its path. Before sheathing it back into a scabbard, the technique is extremely reminiscent of Light Jutsu. Second form, Pearl Flower Moon Gazing. He performs 3 crescent-shaped slashes while releasing a multitude of crescent moon blades along with them. Third form, Loathsome Moon Chains. Kukushibo performs 2 extremely broad crescent-shaped slashes directly in front of them, from which a storm of similar crescent moon blades are released. Fifth form, Moon Spirit Calamitous Eddy. Kukushibo creates multiple long and curved slashes over one another, essentially creating a vortex of crescent moon blades, as stated by Sanemi Suigetsu in, of course, the Infinity War art. Of course, the sixth form, Perpetual Night, Lonely Moon, Incessant. Kukushibo rapidly performs a multitude of curved slashes several meters in front of him that releases a wild barrage of crescent moon blades capable of slicing up the surroundings. Seventh form, Mirror of Misfortune Moonlit. Using his altered katana, of course, which we'll see in the movies, Kukushibo performs a frontal crescent-shaped slash that unleashes numerous straight and curved slashes that expand upward. Eighth form, Moon Dragon Ringtail. He performs a massive long-range curved slash that leaves dozens of crescent moon blades along its path. Seventh form is eighth form is using his altered katana. No, ninth form. I think I did eighth form. Ninth form, using his altered katana, Kukushibo performs multiple curves. Okay, so seventh, eighth forms, and ninth forms are mostly the same thing, where he just does long range attacks and in turn tries to use the area with multiple ranges slash. Other than that, 10th form is kind of the same. We really don't know much about the 11th form. And 14th form, Catastrophe Tenmin Crescent Moon. Using his altered katana, Kukushibo performs a multitude of curved slashes which expands outward in every direction that incrementally grow in size. In 16th form, Moonbow Half Moon. Using his altered katana, Kukushibo swings upward, sending 6 curved slashes, crashing down several meters in front of him, powerful enough to leave craters in their wake. That is pretty much it. He does have 16 forms, but we have only been shown 16, 14, 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, and 1. I wish we got more of his breathing technique, or at least someone who could use his breathing technique that was a human, just to see what a master, a different kind of master would look like. But that's just unfortunate. He never passed down this kind of teaching to anyone else. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm discussing or explaining stone breathing, one of the 5 main breathing styles derived from sun breathing. Stone breathing is a breathing style that mimics earth and stone and replicates it with the user's movements, techniques, and abilities. It is one of the more difficult breathing styles to learn, that is focused so much on your physical strength. That is why Guillaume is the only user of it right now. Of course, there's been many users throughout the time. Of course, most if not all known techniques and form utilizes the ground beneath the user and the vast surroundings to generate powerful and sturdy attacks that specialize in both offensive and defensive. The breathing style was originally created by one of Yoruichi's students, as they also tried to attempt sun breathing, but of course couldn't, so they focused on themselves and came up with stone breathing. And based on the only user in the series, Guillaume Hajime, it can be assumed that stone breathing can only be used with a flail or an axe. However, in Kukushibo's flashback, the original user of stone breathing is seen wielding a giant kama with a considerably long shaft. Of course, there's 5 known techniques and forms at minimum, and where Guillaume put himself to work and used all of them. First form, Serpentite Bipolar. The user throws both the flail and axe towards their intended target and manipulates the chain by rotating it, thus causing the axe and flail to also rotate in order to drill and grind right through their target. Of course, second form, Upper Smash. The user throws both their axe and spike flail for a pincer move before smashing down on the chain to cause the flail to then rebound and smash into their target from afar. Of course, third form, Stone Skin. The user rapidly twirls and swings the chain around them to unleash an omnidirectional flurry of attacks with both the flail and axe. This technique can also be used to block and counter enemy attacks from all directions at once. Fourth form, Volcanic Rock Rapid Conquest. The user manipulates both the flail and axe weapons at both ends of the chain by swinging the chain on both sides in order to strike their opponents using two-pronged wide-ranged attacks. And of course, fifth form, Arcs of Justice. The user utilizes a powerful barrage with their flail and axe, doing a great amount of damage. The axe is destined to hit first, with the trajectory of flail following from the opposite side and slamming it into the opponent. Of course, there was an attempt to teach many others this technique, but if you do not have the physical strength of the to handle the stone breathing, the stress it could put on your body, is the only reason Guillaume is the only user of it. That, unlike like water breathing, where there can be multiple water users at one time. Other than that, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I am explaining everyone's favorite character / breathing style, sound breathing. Of course, sound breathing is a breathing style derived from the original 5, thunder breathing, to focus more on the speed and strength of your legs, as it specifically, it's disorienting loudness and replicates it with the user's movements and techniques and abilities. Most, if not all, known techniques and forms utilize explosives to deal massive amounts of damage while making use of extremely fast movements, similar to how fast sound travels as well as the user's sense of hearing. Now, unfortunately, since Uzui is the only known user of sound breathing, we never get to see sound breathing in the full manner, since Tengen never really got his Demon Slayer mark and to be really effective in the Infinity Ward Castle. So you can always, because he would have been, him and Rengoku, if they were still alive and still very much active, they would have been extremely powerful in the Infinity Ward Castle with their Demon Slayer marks, probably preventing so much loss that was shown. So it's unfortunately they didn't make it, or at least Tengen didn't make it. I can understand why killing Rengoku makes sense, but just retiring Tengen, ouch. Anyway, the only known user, Tengen Uzui, uses a technique developed using his superhuman sense of hearing called musical score, which involves Tengen reading his opponent's movements and deconstructing them into sound by analyzing the rhythm of their movements. Of course, through this, he is able to take advantage of their openings to much greater effect by striking in a way similar to making the beat of a song. Also, since this combat was presumably created by Tengen, it can be used with a specific set of weaponry, which is 2 gigantic nunchucks like Nichiren cleavers, which each have a notch in the sharp ends of their blades and are held together at the hilt of a metal chain. His swords are said to have large amounts of explosive power, and it stated until Tengen's fight with upper rank 6, no demon has survived a single blow from them. Remember, Tengen is originally a ninja, so before he became a swordsman, ninja, so he is still able to do most of everything. Anyway, sound breathing has 5 techniques and forms at minimum, of which 3 are demonstrated. First form, Roar. The user lifts their twin swords above their head and slams them down with great force, causing a loud sound resembling thunder as a result. Fourth form, Constant Resounding Slashes. The user holds their twin swords apart and spins them rapidly around themselves, enabling the blades to destroy anything it makes contact with for powerful defensive capabilities around the user. Then, of course, you have fifth form, String Performance. The user holds the chain of their twin swords and rotates the blades at high speeds, which, charging forward the spin of the blades without changing grip, allows for continuous slashes while still being in motion. Of course, this happened in the trying to think what arc, and of course the Upper Moon 6 arc. I just can't remember the arc where we're introduced to Tengen, and unfortunately we just don't see the full power of this technique. It's up to you in the comment section. We could discuss how powerful Tengen would have been in the Infinity Castle arc with Demon Slayer Mark, with everything intact. People say he would have been as powerful as Guillaume, or at least closer to Guillaume, as the others really weren't at that level yet, since he has the second strongest body of the Demon Slayer Corps, and sound breathing, and insanely powerful and broken and fast. Other than that, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm discussing or explaining thunder breathing. Of course, thunder breathing is one of the original 5 breathing styles originally deprived from sun breathing. Thunder breathing is a breathing style that mimics lightning, specifically swift strikes and movement akin to lightning ripping through the sky, making you one of the fastest and strongest demon slayers. There's 3 people that use lightning breathing techniques. Of course, Zenitsu's one, Zenitsu's teacher, and then of course Kai Raigoku. Could be wrong. I could be saying his name wrong. Anyway, it has been remarked by Zenitsu Akatuma that this breathing style focuses on channeling strength into the user's legs and maximizing the output of every single muscle and blood vessel in them. The user also mimics lightning to such high fidelity that they cause the air to vibrate when poised to unleash a technique and create immensely loud sounds akin to thunder with their mere footsteps. Of course, it is up to you. What do you think? If this breathing style is faster than sound breathing, or if it's not. It's kind of up to you. I always say this is faster than sound breathing, but I could be entirely wrong, because I just think Tengen was more experienced with his breathing style than Zenitsu was. Anyway, this breathing style was created by one of Yoruichi's students who attempted to learn sun breathing, but due to not being innately powerful as Yoruichi, he was instead taught an alternative personalized breathing style that focused on their individual strengths and weaknesses, which eventually evolved into thunder breathing. Also, a known cultivator of thunder breathing in the Demon Slayer Corps is the former Thunder Hashira Chikora Kojima, who eventually offed himself, unfortunately, because one of his students, Kaigekyu, kind of turned into a demon, which we'll see in the Demon Slayer. I think since the first Demon Slayer movie already came out and it's already been bootlegged on a couple of sites, you should have already seen it. I haven't, so I'm just gonna wait till it comes to America. Other than that, thunder breathing has 6 standard forms in total, with the first form said to be the foundation for all the other forms. However, Zenitsu developed a 7th form in order to stand on equal ground with Kaigekyu, his former senior disciple under Jigoro, who had become the upper rank 6 of the 12. All 7 forms would be demonstrated. Yes, it got fully fleshed out. That's how we know Zenitsu's the main character. Of course, noted the 2nd to 6th forms of thunder breathing have only been displayed by Kaigekyu, who uses actual lightning in conjunction with his swordsmanship. Yes, even though Zenitsu is a known master, he can only use the 1st form and the 7th form he made. He cannot use the 2nd to 6. He has never mastered those capabilities yet. He has the potential to. I think he eventually will. I don't know if they focus more on their swordsmancraft after defeating everybody in this Demon Slayer court than the Infinity War, but probably not. Anyway, 1st form, Thunderclap and Flash. The user unsheathes their katana, dashes forward at blinding speeds, and decapacitates their opponent faster than they can react. Of course, you could an extension of this is 6-fold, 8-fold, and Godspeed. Of course, the 2nd form, Rice Spirit. The user releases 5 arc slashes accompanied by lightning in quick succession. 3rd form, Thunderstorm. The user spins around and surrounds the enemy with waves of arc lightning and attacks them from all directions. 4th form, Distant Thunder. The user generates a ball of electricity that releases waves of strong multi-directional lightning bolts from afar. 5th form, Heat Lightning. The user unleashes a long-ranged upward sword slash accompanied by lightning. 6th form, Rumbled and Flash. The user releases a series of powerful long-ranged lightning attacks that strike his opponent from afar. And of course, 7th form, the personal creation of Zenitsu. The user dashes forward at blinding speeds and unleashes a single forward slash at a low stance, which is seemingly accompanied by a yellow Japanese dragon shaped lightning bolt, which in his turn is like a dragon sword, or not dragon sword. I almost said dragon punch, but that's a whole different anime. Other than that, that's kind of it. I would talk about the game. Don't play the game. So anyway, like, subscribe, and if you want to add anything, of course, I'll read it in the comment section below. And I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm explaining mist breathing. As we know, mist breathing is a form specifically used by Muichiro. As it is derived from wind breathing that is used, of course, by Sanemi. Mist breathing, of course, without the effects, is just a normal swordsman style. So don't anyone say, oh, it's his powers. I'm explaining a breathing style. Of course, it's supposed to replicate the user's movement techniques and abilities with mist. Most, if not all, known techniques and forms involved obscure movements and attacks that disorient and confuse the target. And based on mist only known user Muichiro, who wears baggy clothes that covers his arms and legs in order to conceal his movements as much as possible, it can be assumed that most other users would also have to don clothing that hide their limbs from their enemy in order to fully maximize the potential of this breathing style. It also takes stuff from flower breathing, as mist breathing is also not a personal creation of any of the Taisho era Hashira, being created in an era prior to that. It is also shown in a flashback about the Demon Slayer mark in the Sengoku period. A Demon Slayer with the same cloud like Demon Slayer mark as Michiro's appears next to Yoriichi, but is it uncertain whether he was creator of mist breathing or a practitioner of another breathing style. But headcanon-ish, it's more like to replicate or to show how this is the strongest group of Demon Slayers ever since Yoriichi's conception of the Demon Slayer corpse in that time. The only, of course, known user is Muichiro Tokito, and it has 6 known forms and techniques, and a 7th one created and only utilized by the current Mist Hashira Muichiro. First form, Low Clouds Distant Haze. The user performs a singular powerful frontal thrust. Stroke it. Pause. Second form, 8 Layered Mist. The user performs 8 slashes in quick succession, followed up by the third form, Scattering Mist Splash. The user performs a powerful and swift circular slash that can blow away incoming projectiles. Fourth form, Shifting Flow Slash. The user takes a low stance before dashing toward the target and slashing them. As well as the 5th form, Sea of Clouds and Haze. The user charges at their target at blistering speeds in a zigzag motion while performing a barrage of continuous slashes in front and or around them. Along with the 6th form, Dispersing Mist, the user leaps into the air and performs a multitude of slashes in a somersault motion, decimating dozens of targets at once. Of course, the 7th form, created by Muichiro, is a movement-based technique designed to heavily disorient the target, which we see with one of the upper moons, which is done so by fluctuating the user's tempo. When the user appears before the target, they move incredibly slow, but then accelerate to blistering speeds before getting hit, as well as he does it to the upper moon. Do I remember the upper moon in the Swordsmith Village arc? No, but I know he does it. Also, when the user appears before the target, they move incredibly slow. And when done repeatedly, it can disorient the target to the point of making them think they are being covered in a thick layer of mist, as we see in the Swordsmith Village arc. He is the only known user. We don't know if there's been other users of the mist form. Of course, this is something he has created by himself. Other than that, you can like, subscribe. If I've gotten anything wrong in this video, you can of course correct me in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining insect breathing used by that girl Shinobu. of course. And insect breathing is a breathing style derived from the original flower breathing. Insect breathing is a specific style that mimics insects, and it's also one of the more easier styles to learn. That's why Shinobu is still a Hashira, but an incredibly weak Hashira on the totem pole, despite everything else that goes on. Especially since, stronger bodies do better in the Demon Slayer world. At least that's what's said. Don't cancel me, please. I just got here. Of course, this breathing style is the personal creation of Shinobu Kocho, who designed it to compensate for her lack of physical strength to behead a demon. Hence, this sword style can only be utilized by her and only using a katana with her needle-like tip. I was wrong. Resembling an insect stinger in appearance and function. The stinger is designed for injection of wisteria poison into demons. As noted by Doma, the blade sheath was also designed as a portable poison mixer, allowing Shinobu to change the poison that coats her blade at a moment's notice. She's basically a bug, insect user. Originally, I called this bug breathing, but bug, insect, sort of the same thing. I know somebody in the comment section. They're not the same thing. Relax. She only has 4 breathing techniques and breathing styles. At least that was we were shown. Dance of the Butterfly Caprice. The user leaps into the air and charges towards the opponent, stinging them multiple times with their blade to inject poison in just seemingly one strike. Dance of the Bee Sting. True Flutter. The user dashes at their sound at blinding speeds and uses the momentum of their speed to then strengthen a single thrust into their opponent and inject poison into them. Of course, we have Dance of the Dragonfly. Compound Eye Hexagon. The user unleashes 6 with thrust, aims to strike and inject their target with multiple doses of poison at the target's weak spots, such as the neck, heart, torso, etc., in order to kill them with a large dose of poison. As well as Dance, the final one, the Dance of the Centipede, 100-legged zigzag. The user uses their full speed to run a zigzag pattern that confuses their opponent in order to create an opening for them to directly stab their opponent's neck and inject poison to kill them, with their stab's force and power being furtherly enhanced by the movement of their speed. Doma noted that the sheer speed of this technique is strong enough to destroy an entire wooden bridge. Of course, Doma may have been trolling, but we could see in that fight and later in the Infinity Ward Castle. Despite everything, I said this was one of the easier ones to learn. I'm wrong. This is an original breathing style technique. Of course, it derives from flower breathing. But other than that, the only one that could potentially use it is Shinobu's younger sister. That is Shinobu's younger sister, but we don't really see her as a combatant in the Demon Slayer Corps. She's more of a caretaker. So other than that, you can like, subscribe. If you want to add anything, put it in the comment section below. I will read it. I read all the comments. I do appreciate the comments, the likes, everything. And I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining wind breathing. Wind breathing is one of the main 5 breathing techniques directly deprived of sun breathing, off the benefactor that its creator instead tried to learn sun breathing, but since he couldn't be as powerful as Yoruichi was him, he was instead taught an alternated personalized breathing style that focused on his individual strength and weaknesses, which eventually evolved into wind breathing. Of course, the breathing style is often extremely reminiscent of the real-life swordsman style of Jigen Ryu. I'll put a picture up if I edit correctly. Sun, Wind, and of course the spin-offs of the wind breathing style is Beast and Mist. Now the only known users is Sanemi Shinuzugawa, if I'm saying the name correctly, and Masachika Kumino. Wind breathing has a minimum of 9 known techniques and forms, of which all were demonstrated. First form, Dust Whirlwind Cutter. The user dashes forward at blinding speeds and slashes continuously in a horizontal cyclone pattern. Second form, Claws Purifying Wind. The user lifts the sword upwards towards the right above their head and unleashes 4 vertical slashes at once down on the enemy, resembling claws. Third form, Clear Storm Wind Tree. The user unleashes a whirlwind of slashes around their body that can defend them from incoming attacks and slice up their surroundings. Fourth form, Rising Dust Storm. The user releases several whirlwind slashes above them from below their target. Fifth form, Gold Mountain Wind. The user creates several circular arc slashes that increased in size from above their target. Sixth form, Black Wind Mountain Mist. The user rotates their body in an uppercut movement, creating an arcing slash. Seventh form, Gale Sudden Gust. The user leaps into the air while swinging their blade, which generates gale force winds to shred their opponent apart. Eighth form, Primary Gale Slash. The user leaps into the air and swings their blade, which generates circular torrents of wind that slices up the opponent instantly. Of course, ninth form, Idaitan Typhoon. The user backflips into the air whilst upside down, unleashes a powerful gust of circular wind that slashes apart anything below. So, unlike many breathing styles that we know is special effects, wind breathing could actually be the one that doesn't have to use special effects. Of course, the whole slashing, the green light that we see, that's special effects. But the wind that is created partially off his strikes may not be. Of course, in the anime, we've only seen the first, second, fourth, and fifth form. Of course, we'll eventually see the other forms in the Infinity War Castle arc. Or since you've seen the first movie already, because it leaked on some sites, you've probably seen them already. Anyway, I can't give you spoilers. I don't think it happens that early on into the arc itself. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I am explaining flame breathing. Flame breathing is one of the original 5 main breathing styles directly derived from sun breathing. Of course, flame breathing is a breathing style that mimics flames and replicates it with the user's movements and techniques and abilities. Of course, the breathing style was created by one of the original Demon Slayers during the Sengoku period, as of course it was an attempt to teach, it was an attempt at sun breathing. But Yoruichi attempted to give them something else, as they attempted to learn sun breathing, and flame breathing was focused on their individual strength and weaknesses. Of course, they were the head of the Rengoku family at the time. Anyway, from then onwards, the breathing style has been passed down for generations, and the flame Hashira position was always fulfilled by someone from their lineage. Kyujuro Rengoku carried the tradition forward in the footsteps of his father and former flame Hashira, Shinjuro Rengoku. However, after Kyujuro's death, the Rengoku's family long-standing tradition of passing down the flaming technique has come to an end. But it can still be passed down. Shinjuro Rengoku, as a messias, can still pass down this technique, as of course he may have been the more powerful flame Hashira than his son Rengoku. It's just sad because Shinjuro was taken out the fight because of his wife's death. Anyway, flame breathing has 9 known techniques in total, and we only see 6 of them demonstrated. Among these, the 9th form Rengoku is an historic art exclusive to the Rengoku family. Of course, we see in Shinjuro, Rengoku's father, Kyujuro, the one that died, R.I.P., and Mishri Kanjuri, who ended up using love breathing instead, or at least the love breathing derives directly from Kyujuro Rengoku. Anyway, I'll explain love breathing in a different video. First form, Unknowing Fire. The user dashes forwards towards the target at tremendous speeds before unleashing a singular horizontal slash directed at the target's neck for decapitation. Second form, Rising Scorching Sun. The user unleashes an arcing vertical slash in an upwards motion, often brought up from a tail guard. Third form, Blazing Universe. The user performs an arcing downwards vertical slash, often brought down from a high guard. Fourth form, Blooming Flame Undulation. The user performs a singular slash or multiple if needed in a fluid circular motion to defend from incoming attacks and decapacitates multiple targets. Fifth form, Flame Tiger. The user dashes forth, bringing their blade into a high guard before performing a series of sword slashes, which take the form of a flaming tiger, enveloping the user. Of course, 9th form Rengoku. That was the combination of all forms. The most powerful flame breathing technique. The user assumes a high stance before performing an extremely high speed dash towards the target and unleashing a singular devastating dash. The technique is powerful enough to completely carve out the ground in its wake. In the movie and anime adaptation, this technique seemingly took the form of a flaming Japanese dragon that envelops the user as they are charging towards the target. That is the last move that we see Rengoku use, and unfortunately his father can still use it. I know his father is like a complete drunk, but hopefully he'll get over himself. But we know the story is over. Other than that, like, subscribe. Unfortunately, the flaming breathing techniques did end there, but I think they still live on in that little time skip because of reincarnation and something. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining water breathing. Water breathing is one of the 5 main breathing styles directly derived from sun breathing. Water breathing is a breathing style that mimics water, specifically the flow, flexibility, and adaptability of the liquid, and replicates it with the user's movements, techniques, and abilities. Hold on. I got the fire department on my block. Are they coming on my block? Nah, they not. Anyway, this breathing style was originally created by one of Yoriichi Tsukini's students who attempted to learn sun breathing. Of course, since they're not Yoriichi themselves, they was taught an alternative breathing style focused on their strength and weaknesses. It is said to be the most common breathing styles among demon slayers due to being the easiest to learn for beginners. And a known cultivator of water breathing in the Demon Slayer Corps is Sakanaji Uradoki, though there are other cultivators as well. Of course, we don't know how powerful Sakanoji Uradoki is. We know the strongest water user ended up giving his life for Giyu, since we don't really know how he would have ended up. They said Giyu even stated that he should have been the water Hashira instead of him, but we know how that is. Anyway, water is directly spin-off of sun, and then the water spin-offs would be flower, serpent, and insect. The known users is Uraraki, that we are met, that Tanjiro and Giyu learn under, Murata, Sabito, who's supposed to be the water Hashira, but unfortunately dies trying to save Giyu and many others in the Demon Slayer exams, Makomo, and used to be Aoi Kanzaki. But now she focused mostly on medicine. Anyway, water breathing has 10 techniques, with an 11th one created and exclusively used by the current water Hashira Giyu Tomioka, along with numerous modified versions of pre-existing forms. All 11 forms were demonstrated. First form, water surface slash. The user slashes a singular horizontal slash, aiming to decapacitate their target. Second form, water wheel. The user leaps forward into the air and performs a front flip, releasing a singular vertical slash in a circular motion. Second form, improved lateral water wheel, an alternate variation of second form water wheel created by Tanjiro Kamado that unleashes a horizontal spin instead of the vertical one that Giyu uses. Third form, flowing dance. The user swings and bends their blade in a winding motion along with their body and dances in a flowing pattern, slicing everything in its path. Fourth form, striking tide. The user performs a multitude of slashes in a flowing fashion to release multiple consecutive slashes, striking tide turbulent. An improved version of the fourth form, striking tide. The user increases the quantity of consecutive strikes and slashes along with improving its accuracy in order to contact a specific target during a chaotic situation. Fifth form, blessed rain after the drought. The user changes the grip on their sword and decapacitates the opponent in a single flowing strike. Sixth form, whirlpool. The user twists their body using their blade to perform a fierce whirling motion which generates a whirlpool of air to shred apart anything. Of course, there is a spin-off version of World Wheel Flow, which is a combination of third wheel flowing dance and sixth form whirlpool created by Tanjiro Kamado. Seventh form, drop ripple thrust. The user performs a precise, fast, and accurate thrust with their blade. Drop ripple thrust curve, a modified strike that hits from a specific angle corresponding to the sword structure, which nearly nullifies the impact and momentum of a moving object. Eighth form, waterfall basin. The user cuts the target vertically in a flowing motion which is most effective when they are falling downward. Ninth form, splashing water flow turbulent. The user changes their footwork in a way that minimizes the landing time and surface needed when landing, allowing the user to move without limits. Ideal when fighting in a place with no solid foothold. Of course, 10th form, constant flux. The user charges towards the target whilst performing a continuous flowing attack. 11th form, dead calm, which we see Gyo use in his his 5th appearance when including action, where the user ceases all body movements and enters a state of complete tranquility, deflecting and blocking and cutting any incoming attacks with imperceptible speed with their blade. Of course, you have some gaming exclusives, but that is quite different. And we see all the forms demonstrated in the anime so far. 8 first to 11. Of course, since it's used by the MC, we are going to see it the most. Of course, Tanjiro had to use a lot of spin-off versions since his body is mostly just used to sun breathing. But he doesn't figure that out until later. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining love breathing. Love breathing is a breathing style directly of a spin-off of flame breathing, because of course Misuri used to be a student of Rengoku, but inevitably just turns it into her own breathing style. Anyway, love breathing is a breathing style that is based on the emotions of love and replicates it with the user's movements, techniques, and ability. Most, if not all, known techniques inculcate a gymnastic and movement-oriented rhythm into the user's attacks. The breathing style is the personal creation of Misuri Karinji, made by altering the flame breathing she learned from Rengoku, of course, to suit her flexibility and strength. Misuri first created love breathing while fighting off the wolves by Haru's blood demon art. So it'll go sun, flame, to love. Third spinoff. Anyway, love breathing has 6 forms at minimum, of which 5 were demonstrated. We never get to see the 6. It's unfortunate. Anyway, first forms, shivers of first love. The user dashes forward and performs a single slash that winds through the target, hitting multiple areas with one slice. Second form, love pangs. The user performs a singular long winding swing akin to a whipping motion that cuts the target at multiple angles. Third form, cat love shower. The user leaps into the air and performs multiple arcs, slashes in quick succession. Fifth form, swaying love, wild claw. The user leaps into the air before performing a somersault and releasing dozens of rapid winding slashes from afar that essentially form a tornado of slashes. In the game, this technique was shown to have an even more powerful drill-like attack when boosted with a Demon Slayer mark. Of course, sixth form, called it, but we don't see it. Cat-legged winds of love. The user extends their sword to perform an arcing slash before retracting it and extending it once more, done in quick succession to form a line of slashes. Of course, in the anime, we've seen first, second, third, fifth, and sixth. The only form we have not seen Misuri use is fourth form, and I don't think we'll see it any upcoming arc either. Fortunately, this is one of the breathing styles that we see more of. Of course, some breathing styles we really don't get to see at the fullest capacity, but since Misuri was involved in the endgame directly and on the Swordsmith Village arc, we get to see her a little bit. It is I'm not going to give y'all a spoiler warning. Y'all know basically the ending of Demon Slayer, especially if you were on a different kind of platform and you heard the stupid song. It's me that lost on you. Ooh. I'm sorry. I had to break out the vocals. Anyway, like, subscribe. These will come in a compilation. I don't know what's first. I don't know what's last. So I will see you in the next one. Thank you for enjoying the videos. And yeah, peace out. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining serpent breathing. It is a breathing style, a spin-off of water breathing. Of course, it is self-taught and only Obanai can use it. Since Obanai is the youngest of the Hashira, he actually never reached his full potential. Even though he got the Demon Slayer mark, it would have been cool to see him actually grow up a little bit. Anyway, serpent breathing style is a breathing style that mimics serpents or snakes, specifically their slithering motions and fast striking attacks. and replicates it with the user's movements, techniques, and abilities. Most, if not all, known techniques and forms focused on twisting and bending the sword like how a serpent slithers. Since this technique is currently known to only be utilized by Obanai, presumably its creator, it can only be used with a twisted blade that is similar to an Indonesian Chris dagger. I will put a picture up if I edit this correctly. Obanai is the only known user of the serpent technique. He was self-taught and of itself. Anyway, serpent breathing has 5 known techniques and forms at minimum, of which all are demonstrated. First form, winding serpent slash. The user releases a singular frontal horizontal slash aimed at their target in a winding motion. Second form, venom fangs of the narrow head. The user dashes behind their opponent and at blinding speed and aims to swiftly slice off their head from behind. Third form, coil choke. The user circles around their opponent while using their sword to slice them from all directions. Fourth form, twin-headed reptile. The user leaps forward and performs a horizontal slash that slices through the target. Fifth form, slithering serpent. The user charges forth in a twisting and winding motion, curving their sword in multiple directions to strike multiple targets at once. This technique is capable of decapitating multiple enemies at once. And since Obanai, no, it was Miss Hashira, that was one of the first to at least awaken his Demon Slayer mark. Of course. Now, I could go deep into Obanai's personality and other things, but honestly, that could be a different video onto itself. Obanai is an extremely powerful person, and I will explain all the Hashira in different videos throughout next week, of course. Anyway, that's kind of it. He is one of the only people that was able to demonstrate all of his breathing styles at once in all of his breathing forms. I would like to say his breathing style or his breathing form was incomplete, just off the benefactor of Obanai being so young and not really able to train and get that experience as he is, since he's the youngest of the Hashira, while all the rest are like late teens, early 20s. Other than that, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to another video. Today I am explaining beast breathing used by Inosuke. Beast breathing is a breathing style that mimics beasts or wild animals, specifically their unpredictable, ferocious, and wild nature. It is only used by Inosuke since of his wild nature and being grown up in the woods. Simply put, he never had a real teacher or master to actually teach him how to swing or handle his swords correctly. Now, you could say that beast is a derivative of wind, and since wind is one of the original breathing styles, it's a derivative of sun breathing. Anyway, it was self-taught by Inosuke Hashiribira in the mountains and fighting for survival. It can be assumed that it can only be utilized by someone with dual Nichiren katanas and an extremely acute sense of touch. Known technique: beast breathing has 10 known techniques with an improvisation technique created during Inosuke's fight with Doma. All 11 forms would be demonstrated unlike other breathing styles. Only supplement moves are called forms, and assaulting beast breathing moves are called fangs, just because that's Inosuke. Who gonna tell him different? Anyway, first fang, pierce. The user stabs the target's neck with both blades. Second fang, slice. The user unleashes a double slash with 2 blades in an X-shaped cut. Third fang, devour. The user releases 2 simultaneous horizontal slashes towards the target's throat to decapacitate them. Fourth fang, slice and dice. The user delivers multiple diagonal double slashes with both swords. Fifth fang, crazy cutting. The user slices everything in all directions while in midair. Sixth fang, palisades bite. The user releases simultaneous slashes with 2 swords from both directions in a saw-like movement. Seventh form, spatial awareness. The user utilizes their senses of touch to identify the position of enemies and their weaknesses by feeling small disturbances in the air. This technique was so strong that Inosuke could sense all the demons spread out through a whole mountain. That's where he puts the swords in the ground. Seventh form, Now, 8th form, Explosive Rush. The user charges towards their opponent at blinding speeds, ignoring all incoming attacks. 9th Fang, Extending Bendy Slash. The user dislocates the joints of their arm to increase the range of their attacks, and then unleashing a fast swinging forward strike. 10th Fang, Whirling Fangs. The user rapidly spins their swords in a circular motion, deflecting enemy attacks such as projectiles. And of course, 11th Fang, that he uses in the Infinity War. Sudden Throwing Strike. The user throws both of their blades in a spinning motion at an enemy. Of course, this has other moves, but only video game has shown it, which is 3rd Rank, Devour Flesh, 4th Fang, and others that are in just video games itself. He's demonstrated the first 1 through 8th form only in anime only. He will show 9 through 11 in the Infinity War Castle. So you could be technical, and he says he showed all his techniques already, but we're still waiting for the anime to drop, or at least the anime movies to drop. I know movie 1 came out. I'm waiting that to drop in America. Anyway, that is kind of it. Like, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know if I missed out on anything. They call it a breathing style. Well, it's a breathing style distant relative of wind breathing, just off of the aggressiveness that wind breathing gives out. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm explaining flower breathing. Now, flower breathing is a breathing style that mimics both perennial flowers and fruit blossoms and replicates them with the user's movements. Of course, this flower breathing style was used by the insect breathing user older sister, and in turn her little sister as well. Unfortunately, the insect Hashira was unable to replicate this breathing style, inevitably creating her own and leaving flower insanely out of it. Flower originally is associated to serpent, as flower is a spinoff from water, and water, of course, is a spinoff of sun breathing user. The only certainty about its creation, of course, is that it predates the Taisho era, and likely the Meiji as well. And the only known fact about its creator is that they planted a cherry blossom tree in what would become the Butterfly Mansion's garden. Of course, the users are Kanae Gocho and Kanono Tutsuri. Flower breathing originally has at least 7 techniques, and we only seen 5 that were demonstrated, including the final form. 2nd form, Honorable Shadow Plum. We'll see flower breathing, of course, in the Infinity War Castle. It is only used by one person in that little arc, and of course, insect breathing is completely something else. You've seen that video, I think. I hope you did. Anyway, 2nd form, Honorable Shadow Plum. The user releases several rotating sword slashes that deflects incoming physical attacks. 4th form, Crimson Hanagoromo. The user unleashes a single sword slash that curves and twists gradually. 5th form, Penoise of Futility. The user unleashes a flurry of 9 consecutive attacks that flow and weave in on themselves. 6th form, Whirling Peach, a technique used after or during evasion. The user spins around, moving with their body weight to deliver an attack. And of course, flower form. Final form, Equinal Vermilion Eye, a focusing technique that raises the user's kinetic vision to its maximum. While using this technique, the user perceives the world as if it were in slow motion. Usage of the technique, however, is highly dangerous, as the tremendous strain on the eyes could cause blood vessels to rupture and lead to partial or complete blindness. The technique is still usable even if the technique only has one functional eye. Of course, we see this in the Infinity War Castle. I don't know if it's in the movie. I have not seen the movie yet. I know it got leaked on some anime sites, but I think those anime sites got pulled down. Of course, and it's only used, at least modernly, by Kanoo Tsuyuri and the older sister of Kanae. We only see it used in the manga, and of course, it is shown in some video games, mostly just an app game, but that's kind of it. Maybe it will be updated into the Demon Slayer universe of the video games. Other than that, that's kind of it for flower breathing. It only has one user. Not really structured history. It's one of the weaker breathing styles, as it's a derivative, a spinoff of a spinoff. So, yeah. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.